What's up, YouTube? I'm your host, DJ Timms, here turning locals into legends at the Game Shop in Vermilion, Ohio with Sam Dayton, event coordinator for the Game Shop. Sam, thank you very much for coming in on his day off to do this with me today. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing pretty good, DJ. How you doing?
Not too. So, talk to me about the shop. What you guys offer here? What type of events do you guys have?
Okay, well, I run a plethora of events. I mean, we do every gaming system you can think of. I have a giant Dungeons & Dragons open play with 140 players in it. I have Star Wars Legion tournaments. In fact, actually next weekend on the 17th, we have a Star Wars Legion tournament. It's the biggest one in the state, and we do it every 3 months.
How many people?
I think the next one, I think our count right now is 32.
Okay.
Which is actually a pretty good turnout for a Legion tournament, because usually they're like 16 players is considered real good. I run Warhammer 40K RTTs every month, and most of the time I have between 20 and 30 players. I had one that we'll talk about later because it's a Christmas season and there were a bunch of RTTs all scheduled on the same weekend. It wasn't as big, but it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been a really busy month for 40K. There's been a lot going on. I'm surprised.
That is the understatement of the year.
You think with everybody like family, weather, and everything like that, this would be a slower season, but it has been really, really big, especially with everyone trying to get ready for LVO this year.
Oh yeah.
So, speaking of your Warhammer 40K and that, you just had a charity drive for Second Harvest.
Yeah, Second Harvest Food Bank.
How'd that work out for you guys?
I had 12 players actually come in, but I had a couple players that couldn't make the whole tournament because everybody's scheduled on top of everything.
Right.
But we actually raised 266 cans of food for the food bank out of 12 people.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And the event, the way we ran it, and I'm going to do it the same way next year, although next year I think it's going to be a team tournament format. Every can of food you donate is a command point that goes into your command point battery that you can use during the whole event. So my example was, if Steve brings me 90 cans of Campbell's soup, Steve has 90 extra command points to use during the course of 3 games.
Oh, wow.
And I had people blowing through command points. And my whole sales pitch at Trip C was, how many of you guys hate that Nephilim says, command points, what are those?
Right.
So I was like, let's have fun one time for Christmas.
Right. So did you see any broken combos? Was there
Oh my lord, knights being able to I had 3 knight players here, and I think they rotated every turn. They did the mortal wounds strat with the volcano lance like every turn.
Oh wow.
It was amazing.
So knights were taking advantage of it. So you said you're planning on doing that again. When can we look for this to come up again?
I have to get that scheduled up, but usually that's our November tournament.
All right. So with that though, that's not the only events that you're running before you.
Oh no, I run events every month, and they're almost always themed. And I've actually been told by the guys on Best Quest Pairings that I have the most fun names for my events.
Right. What was the name for this one?
This one was the Second Harvest RTT. But last month we did another charity event for the Care Center, which they take care of homeless veterans and veterans who can't live out on their own. I'm a veteran myself, so it's a thing I really care about a lot.
So hard, very much.
So they told me they didn't have it in the budget to get enough winter coats, so we did a charity drive, and I took them, I think, 60 winter coats.
Oh wow, that's amazing. See, and that's something that people don't seem to understand, that a lot of gaming, whether it's video games, Warhammer for us and that stuff, we have a lot of people. We have a lot of power, a lot of presence, and there's a lot of people that really do have a good heart and want to help out the community. So in your local areas, your local events, try and reach out to different areas and see what you guys can do and what you guys can build up, because there is a lot. Next year I actually plan to try to do something for Extra Life, the child pediatrics. The 24-hour gaming stream is usually what they do. So there's stuff I have in the works to try and get on that.
And it doesn't take much to do anything for charity, because every little bit helps. As stupid as that sounds, every little bit helps.
It really does. And you get to, one of the biggest things about 40K, you get to hang out, play some games, and roll some dice.
So my favorite event that we ran here, I was dressed in an Uncle Sam costume with the giant 9-foot tall Uncle Sam hat. And it was called the All-American 40K Tournament. And I think the tag picture was like M16 machine guns going off with like Rambo and Teddy Roosevelt flying through the air.
Nice.
And I had people dressed up. I said the most patriotic person wins. So you got to see people doing the white trash thing. You get to see people doing all these weird costumes. It's a good time.
That's awesome. So you had mentioned that you guys do events every month, with the topic being 40K. Your shop's RTTs. First of all, what is an RTT, for those who don't know?
Okay, so RTT stands for Rogue Trader Tournament. It is a one-day tournament, 3 rounds. That is the ITC definition for it.
And the ITC is?
The Independent Tournament Circuit, which, if you don't know about them, check out Frontline Gaming's website.
Basically,
They'll link that.
Basically, it's where all our scores get recorded as well, too, so that we can see how we're doing with other people and, pick on each other for where we are in rankings and stuff like that. And it's followed all across the United States. Everyone uses it pretty much.
We also use the...
Does it go international?
Yeah,
it does.
Absolutely.
So how your RTTs have recently really started to pick up a lot more.
Since we moved into the new space, we moved into the new store in May. And our play space is bigger than some people's stores.
It is. It really is. Yeah, you guys have grown a lot in a very short time frame too, especially in the economy right now for a game store.
Well, so Paul, when he started this store 10 years ago, he was doing it out of his garage with his friends.
I remember that.
And then he moved into the big garage on Haley Street. Then we were in a shopping plaza for a couple of years, and then we moved in here. And man, I remember being in this tiny, tiny little store that was no bigger than like a 1-car garage, and now I could run back and forth in here, and
yeah, that was when we did our Apocalypse battle.
Yep,
here.
the APOC game.
10 guys in every model they could possibly bring. I showed up with 1.
I think we barely fit in there.
Yes. And that was one of the things. I showed up with 1. I brought 1, my Warlord type, my big, beautiful beastie. So what would you say with your RTTs, with some gamers that are coming along with 40K right now? They want to get out, they want to play, they want to be competitive. But at the same time, too, they don't want to just go out there and go 0-3 on the weekend. What do you feel the competition or experience level is of the gamers that are currently at your RTTs?
So I actually have a big mix of players because I'm a part of the Death or Glory gaming team out of Michigan, and I have guys come from Michigan, and we have some top tier players. I have Brad Chester and Tom Ogden as teammates, so I obviously see some of the better players in the country. But I also have a mix of newer guys, and then I have guys that are still trying to figure their armies out. They change armies every year because they're just trying to figure out what it is that they want to play. They're trying to figure out their play style.
Right.
Me, I stick with one army because one, I'm broke.
Oh, we know that feeling. It's not even about being broke. It's just, whoo, this game can get really expensive, especially when you get to your 5th.
Well,
6th,
once I got to like 300,000 points of Space Wolves, I figured I should probably just play Space Wolves for a while. My wife starts to get a little upset when I'm like, I think I'm going to pick up this army. She's like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I know that one. So you guys there's no stopping the train. You're going to keep doing these RTTs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We're going to be seeing these all throughout next year. And a lot of these RTTs, which we're going to want to talk about in a little bit, is primers. Which, for those who don't know, primer typically is a tournament that uses the mission pack for an upcoming GT or major event of some sort. And you come in and you're able to practice some of the missions, the exact rules, everything, terrain setup, all that stuff. And you guys, that's a ideology that you guys keep as well too, because a lot of our guys, a lot of people in the area travel and go to these tournaments. Yep. So we do a lot of practice for those as well and getting set up.
I treat every RTT as just a big practice session. So you go to an RTT, you may not have the most competitive list. What you're doing is you're throwing darts at the wall and you're seeing what it does to the meta.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. Sometimes you come out of an RTT and you're like, man, that was really, really bad. I suck. And then sometimes you come out and you're like, damn, I need to play all 3 of those units.
Yeah, this last one, I've been running Ophidians for a while, and I was running them because they move faster. They're a good unit.
They're just so made out of paper.
Yeah, this last at Trip C, man, they were the MVPs. I don't know how many times they just came from behind a rune and just ripped something apart. Just the base stat characteristics.
And that's a big thing, is that people don't plan on the ITC terrain style and the GW tables, they favor infantry that run through walls.
Yes.
So as a Space Wolves player, that just means I play Wolfen and Terminators.
Yep.
And it kills me to say this. This is the first time I put Terminators on the table since, what, 4th, 5th edition?
Sadly, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, so...
A lot of armies really haven't been able to run the Terminators. Even back in those days, one of the only Terminators that I could run was Paladins. But I wasn't even running Paladins for Paladins. I was running it because of Death Stars, which we're not even going to go down this road.
And then
but
stacking the Psychic dice.
it was, oh look, I get an Apothecary for Feel No Pain and attach everything to it. But, talking about Trip C. Trip C just happened. That was a GT.
It was a 2-day GT, yes.
2-day GT that you guys hosted out of Mentor. You were the title, and this is the professional and exact title that was handed to you by
Gil Rivera, the head tournament organizer.
You were the head minion.
I was head minion.
Head minion. All right. So how was the turnout for this?
So we scheduled it about a year ago, and then Warzone Atlanta was the same weekend. So we ended up getting a lot of the newer players, and then Brad Chester, who I'm going to call him out right here, he said, I came here so that I didn't have to fly to Atlanta.
I mean, I'm right now, seriously.
And he had half the team arguing with him, like, no, you need to go to Warzone. He goes, I promised these guys I'd be at this local GT.
Well, we're glad to see him.
Love you, Brad.
Always love seeing old man Brad make it out. Just he needs to learn to move his own models. And when you're flinging spore mines across the table, move your own models. You're already flinging them all over the place. Walk your butt around the table and move them yourself. He knows why.
I think that was the only time I had to come over to that table.
Going into a GT and setting up for it, it's not just walk in the door, turn on the lights, and start playing 40K. No. Talk to me about some of the work leading up to doing a GT. From someone who, myself, I plan on starting to host and run tournaments myself here soon.
Well, as I'm actually setting up, I'm going to be having a GT the same weekend of Adepticon because, some of us are poor and we can't all go to Adepticon. Or, you get on the website to buy a ticket and it's sold out within 30 seconds.
Adepticon's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Adepticon, it's a great event, it's big, but it's not just 40K. It's everything. Everything gaming, and there's some amazing displays. Even if you don't, it's one of those things, don't just go there for one event. Go there, buy an event pass, stay for the entire time. Make sure you walk around, look at everything.
It's more like a con.
It really, really
and it is a good time.
It is. It is one of the biggest 40K. It's like a super major. Or just
it's a super major for sure.
It's one of the biggest. It's like one of the big four of the year for tournaments, right up there with like LVO, Las Vegas Open. But you want to make sure you're maximizing the time. First of all, it's expensive to go there. Be there. Take a weekend. Get some browning points. Get a kitchen pass from the wife, and go and spend some time there. But talk to me about some of the events. How much time in advance did you guys start working on just Triple C and getting ready for that?
So
event?
Gil did all the legwork, but it took him about probably 6 months to nail down all the details because he had to set up with Shield Wall Gaming and Jeff Gatlin, who ran the Shore Wars event, which is the con that we were in. We had to make sure we had enough tables. We actually had to go to Death or Glory to get terrain because they just showed up with a truck full of terrain.
Yeah, Death or Glory is awesome for that. Again, I wasn't a part of this, but still, thank you guys for being as cool as you are to be able to help the community grow.
Yeah, Pete just shows up and he sent, the guy's name was Brock Vermilion. It's the most manly name I have ever heard. Thank you, Brock, for showing up with a truck full of terrain for us. So we got the terrain, we got that figured out, and then G went ahead and he did the mission pack. And I mean, it was a little easier this year because we've had it set up so many times for doing it. But the biggest thing was getting Gravity Dice to send us the gold-plated dice for first place. And that takes a little bit of doing. I don't think I've ever heard him sweet talk someone on the phone quite so much, but it was pretty funny.
That's awesome. So, you were judging, not playing this year.
I was judging, and then 2 rounds I had to play ringer, because we had, as every GT, you have drops.
Yeah.
And some people are like, well, I didn't pay to come here and stand here for 3 hours. So I brought a list that was 13 Dreadnoughts, all Space Marine Dreadnoughts, all Space Wolves, and then 1 Iron Priest. I had no command points, no relics, no Warlord traits.
Completely meta list, absolutely broken, top table list. That's what we're expecting to see. So how did it feel not be, okay, so Did you like it? Were you standing back there?
I
not being able to play?
love judging, but man, I really wish I could have played a Trip C.
Yeah, that's tough to not to just sit there and watch and look and go, I want to play that army. I want to play that army.
Yep.
So, you plan on doing it again? Will you be a part with G next year?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So we've talked.
And then G's actually going to be helping me set up for March 25th for our event. Is going to be a 6-round GT, because at a 48-player cap in a 6-round event, there will be one undefeated player, and we are calling it the Thunderdome GT.
Awesome.
Many players enter. One player gets to take stuff home.
And when's that going?
It's going to be March 25th and 26th of next year.
Awesome. So anyone watching, look out for that and get ready for it. Typical 2,000 points.
Oh, absolutely. And whatever mission pack they name it next.
Yeah, whatever we got next.
It'll be chapter approved. We did Vigilus, Nachman, and Nephilim, so we'll call this one Ophilium or something. I don't know.
Something. Or maybe
Something
maybe
British.
they'll actually make it able to be pronounced. So we talked about charity, we talked about Trip C, we talked about all the events and what you're doing out there. Let's talk about what you're doing out there on the table. As Sam, you've said you are a Space Wolves player.
I am.
And the other armies you play are Space Wolves, and Space Wolves.
That's not all true now. I did pick up Leagues of Votan because my wife said you look like a squad, so you should have some.
Wow. And
My wife loves me, I
How do
swear.
your Space Wolves feel about that?
I haven't put them together yet, and I haven't let them see the boxes, so they don't know yet.
So one of the things, and this is something a lot of gamers looking into this, you go and you build an army, and everyone's like, there's two ways you can look at it. What do I like? What's going to play? What actually works? And some people will not build the army that they want to build with the models that they want to paint, want to play, and want to do all this because they're far behind. With Space Wolves, you saw a codex within the first few releases of the current edition, right?
Yes.
And we have not seen anything since. And not only are Marines kind of on the downward slope, that's where Space Wolves fall in this too. So you're getting ready to go to a GT.
I am.
You spent money for a ticket, money for a hotel. You know you're going to spend some money to eat. You got to drive out there. You're taking a weekend off.
Got to pay for gas.
Got to pay for gas. And at the end of it all, in your mind, you know the chances of you winning the entire GT are very, very slim because you are, not because of you, but because you do not have some of the tools that Leagues of Votan, Sisters, Necrons, their secondaries, etc., Tyranids. These abilities that people bring to the table. Some more broken stuff, I'll say loosely, with Flamers of Siege. So you're getting set up, you're going to the GT, and this is what you're playing. Why?
So this is actually a big one. Everybody hops around armies. Everybody wants to change with the meta, do this, do that. They want to pick up. I saw it at Tripsy. I had somebody playing a carbon copy of TJ Lanigan's list. They didn't know how to play it.
Yep.
The difference is if you stick with one army, and I mean you really, really learn that army and you learn your fundamentals on the game, you can go toe-to-toe with any list. At Michigan GT, before the Leviathan nerf, I went toe-to-toe with Manik Gudimani, who ended up winning best overall because I would have won our game. I failed 2 6-inch or less charges with full rerolls on those charges. So Manik was like sweating bullets, and he looked, he goes, "Oh, thank God. Oh, I won because you can't roll dice."
Yeah, I had the same thing with Brad. Me and Brad's recent meetup at Trip C, I needed to make a 4-inch charge. I rolled a 3, spent the CP, re-rolled it to a 3. And that was me giving him 12 points, and I lost 8 points.
I had 2 units of Wolfen with full reroll, 6-inch or less, and I was hungry for battle, so I was +1 on these charges. And I needed to go 6 inches. And it was to get his Reaper. And if I killed his Reaper, I maxed out glory kills, and I took away all the killing power he really had on the table, except for like 1 unit of Raveners, which they're terrifying, but just throw something with an invuln in their way, and they get stuck.
But the bigger events that you go to, you know that some of these larger names, the Thomas Ogdens, the Brad Chesters, all of those guys, they're going to be there, which means that when you run into those people, the likelihood of not making that mistake that you need is much lower.
So the difference there is some of them, and this is not to pick on any of them, some of them get overconfident when they look at what armies they're playing against. I won't mention names, but a top 25 ITC player at the Dallas Open a couple years ago walked up to the table, saw he was playing against Space Wolves, looked at his teammate and said, I'll be done in 15 minutes. And he was playing the broken Dark Eldar at the time.
Okay.
I took him to time.
There you go.
And he won by 3 points.
There you go.
And he walked away from that table going, how the hell did I almost just lose that game?
There you go. And I do think there is a lot to be the testament of sticking with the army and learning all the intricate details. Like, yes, I play Necrons right now, which are top of the meta. That's by happenstance, not how it is. Since the beginning of this edition, I decided, I'm really going to dedicate it to Necrons. And I've been playing them since the beginning of the edition. Now, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, hey, I have some tools that we can use with their broken secondaries, but I have all the experience behind them, so I've been able to keep a good roll with them going. Recently at Dave's event at the Recess one, I was able to sweep the whole thing 6-0 with Necrons because I've played them so long.
Well, that's because I wasn't there.
Yes, and but with the space going into it with the Space Wolves as well too, there are a lot of stratagems that probably people look at you and go, "You're allowed to do that," and they don't.
I get that a
realize
lot. We have Blood Angels and Space Wolves have a stratagem called Relentless Assault, which lets us heroic 6 inches. And you would not believe how many times I lose games because I'm nice sometimes. Because I'll sit there and somebody will be moving and they're like measuring and making sure they're outside of 3 inches because they know I'm going to heroic something into them. And I'm like, dude, you need to put that 3 inches back. And they're like, why? I'm like, I have a strat and I have command points and I can go 6 inches with that unit of Wolfen.
I'm not gonna lie, because I was practicing Grey Knights with you, and after one game, it's permanently ingrained in my mind that from now on I move and I'm stopped and I'm holding the tape measure out there and going and I look and I point at the unit and go, can they heroic? No. Do they have a strat that they can heroic? No. Can they, or it's something, can they heroic? Yes.
I did tell you in that game that I could do all of those things.
And I keep it in mind and I keep it in check. Every single game now, I always look at something and ask, not only can it heroic, but how far? Because that's the one that'll get you. So, what is the next event you plan on bringing your wolves?
I will be at Glass City on January 7th and 8th, Toledo Game Room, run by my good friend Jason Snagowski.
Okay.
And I like his tournament because he does it in brackets. So it's one of those tournaments you can go to, and if you lose a game, it's not the end of the world. I actually got sick last year at it. We were all wearing masks and we're all sweaty in the room, and I couldn't breathe, so I went home and I missed game 3. I came back the next day and just beat both of my opponents, and I ended up winning my bracket, and I won the second place bracket, and I got $30 less in prize support than Brad Chester, who won first overall.
Right, and that's one thing that, Jason does the day, it really pushes you to play through the whole thing.
It really does.
You get, after day one, a lot of people will
drop
look at
because they're like, there's no reason for me to keep playing, I can't win anything, it's not fun getting beat.
Now, granted, there are some people who do drop, they show up and they know they're not going to play into day 2, but they want to come and hang out and see their friends and talk, play 40K, get a couple games. They know they may not have the best list. They know they're going to drop a game here or there, and they didn't plan on coming for day 2. They want to just come hang out and play some 40K. What Jason's event does is that second day, you don't know what bracket you're in until day 2.
Until you show up.
Right, so it pushes you to really be there and show up for all the games and play all the games, so that the other guy who may have taken a day off of work or had to travel a little bit gets to play their 5 games and gets their money's worth to actually play the 5 games, win, lose, or draw. So
I'll be taking Wolves there, and you were talking about those Flamers of Zinch, and it's funny because when they did their little fireside chat, the first thing I think Robin said on the whole thing was, "We know the Flamers are broken. Don't worry, we're on it." Mm-hmm. So we all know that we won't be seeing those, but basic Space Marines and any way to shut off Overwatch, there are probably a dozen different options for that. You don't have to be scared of them, because I played Nico Chesnick at Canton a couple weeks ago, and he's running that big block of Terminators and 18 of those Flamers. And let me tell you, I was worried. But then I went, I have suppressors. I'm just going to make that one not be able to fire Overwatch, that one not fire Overwatch, that one fire Overwatch. And then I threw 3 units of incursors into them. And let me tell you what, incursors, if you can get them into the Assault Doctrine with double exploding 6s, which is super awesome, by the way, they just make those things go away.
Yeah, I with the Necrons and some of the multiple small units or MSU that I have with them, when stuff gets beat up and I got 1 model left, I just look at the Flamers and go, okay, well, I'm going to charge this single model. Do you want to Overwatch? And then when they look at it, they look down, they look at you, they go, no.
A lot of times, that's what I use. I use throwaway units like land speeders.
Land Raiders?
Yep.
I'm really hoping you were running Land Raiders.
Man,
You're
if
the only guy that knows what a Land Raider is.
Hey, if Land Raiders go down to about 195, you'll see them on the table.
Yeah, I hope that we see some for them. I miss them. I got my Grey Knight ones, my big boys that are fully converted. I'd like to get them back on the table. There's just not. They're too bulky and
Too bulky, no invuln, and there's too many things like rail cannons that just one shot.
Yeah, and also the terrain with the fact that we see a lot more terrain on the tables nowadays.
Which is a good thing for the game, because remember in 8th edition playing Planet Bowling Ball?
Yes.
I played a melee army. I played Space Wolves all during 8th, and I suffered for it.
Yep.
And I still managed to win some games, win some tournaments, but man, I suffered because I can see the tip of your frost stacks. I blast that whole unit off the table. I'm like, great, I'm just going to start modeling all my guys low crawling.
You know, and one thing is, a lot of people do frown on, like, the internet loves to tear Games Workshop apart. There's a couple of things that GW over the last year have done really, really well. Number one, the James Workshop video. That was hilarious. And
They haven't won a tournament in 30 years. Of course I've got to give them a leg up.
Exactly. But they did that prior to the release, which cost them sales to try to uphold the integrity of the game. Which, honestly, I got to give them a golf clap for that. That was a very integrity move. The terrain setup, where they had that little sheet that came out of here's how big the terrain should be, and here, that is really good. That's the way that Drip C had it set up.
That is actually the way Death and Glory sets up their terrain. That's the way the ITC wants the Games Workshop table set up when we play.
And that's the way that my house terrain is set up too, because there's a lot of theories behind that. You really have to sit down and look at, and hopefully maybe sometime we can put together a video talking about why this terrain works out, why it does
absolutely.
well. But it really does limit the fact of getting shot from across the table and just ending your game in one.
The one that gets me is LVO this year is doing player place terrain.
And that's...
You each get your own section. You get I think 5 pieces of terrain per player, and you get to put them on the table where you want. Warzone Atlanta did this, and they didn't have a requisite. You could put terrain anywhere you wanted on the table, as long as it was more than 3 inches away.
Right.
So, and Brad Chester was talking with me about that. He goes, love the Warzone Atlanta tournament. He goes, did not like their terrain rules because if I take a fortification and I can put it across the table, I can put it in your deployment zone, and because it's a fortification, I remove a piece of terrain. So there goes your obscuring piece. Have fun with my
what was it?
The spore assist.
Yeah, the spore assist. Yeah. Here, I'm going to take 3 spore assists, and here you go. Blip, blip, blip. Take the biggest piece of terrain out there.
And a lot of the top players were talking about that, and then they all decided as a group, they're like, no, that'll just get us yelled at.
It does. Well, Sam, thank you very much for making it out here today.
Yeah,
We're going to be
problem.
getting a game here soon, a little 500-point Space Wolves battle.
You're going to see me crush him.
Is there any events that you would like to tell our viewers about that are coming up soon? Do you have any RTs coming up?
Yeah, actually, I have an RTT here at the Shop Game Shop in Vermilion, Ohio.
That's going to be a primer for Glass City.
It is. No, it's a primer for the Las Vegas Open. So I'll be doing player place terrain. We'll do everything the way they're going to do it. It's going to be on January 21st, and I have a 48-player cap for a 1-day RTT.
Okay, and again, that is going to be a primer, which is a practice event using the rules for a GT that we'll be seeing soon, which is the LVO.
Yeah. So
that players can practice, test out their army, and bash out the last little bit.
And the best part about going to a primer is even if you're not going to the event, you can see kind of like how those big GTs run.
Right.
And it's kind of eye-opening because it really gives you a better idea of how 40K tournament play works.
Right. And that's something that I want to focus on a little more in the future. Sam, thank you very much.
Okay, no problem, David.
And we'll be here with the game with you guys soon. Thank you.